Hello, and welcome back to the Misty Morrison podcast. I'm your host, Misty Morrison, and this is episode 78 of Was I in the Wrong? Here on the Misty Morrison podcast, we love to read or listen, we love to give advice, we love to help people look back on their situations with that 2020 vision to see how they could have handled the situations more gracefully. Before we get into our stories for the day, our usual housekeeping, whether you are new or returning, please remember to engage the content to help the channel grow. Engaging online is completely free, and every little bit of engagement can help build the dream. If you are listening on podcast, please leave a 5-star review if you liked it. Anywhere else, give it a like, a heart, a thumbs up. On YouTube, subscribe for more. Hit the bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. Share it with a friend if you liked it. And leave a comment with your thoughts on the stories down below. I do read your comments. I think that's it for all the housekeeping. My camera has moved. Okay, that's better. This is the first episode we are recording in July. So we are experiencing a heat wave here in Missouri. So little Roland is still naked because he's a baby chick. And Beatrice here has got her sun hat back on. She got her sun hat and a little blue collar to match. Very, very breezy for the summer. And I still have this gosh darn cough. I feel like I'm going on 3 weeks with this cough now, and I'm over it. But we carry on no less. So we'll get right on into our stories for the day. Story number 1 is coming to us from r/AITH. AITH, am I ungrateful for not wanting to drive my fiance's car? Here's a little more information. So my fiance, 32 male, and I, 33 female, are on the same car insurance, so that's not an issue. But I have my SUV that I love, and he has his compact car that he loves. But at times, my fiance needs to borrow my SUV. A main reoccurring time is when he has to DJ, which is a side job for him, and he has all his DJ equipment, including speakers, stands, and a foldable table, which he could squeeze into his car, but obviously it fits better in my SUV. There's also other instances as well where he would need/want to use my SUV, like when he helps me get my SUV fixed, like new tires, oil changes, new brakes, etc., where he offers that I use his car, but I don't like using his car. There are multiple reasons why I don't like using his car. First, the interior of his car is really dirty. He used to be a mechanic, so there's oil and dirt everywhere. Also, old pop residue on the sunroof, long story there. I've tried to help clean his car a few times, but some of the stuff is really caked in. He throws trash in his back seat and sometimes anywhere else. On top of that, he has a hole starting underneath the gas and brake pedals. It's an inch away from being a Flintstones car. The steering wheel is coming apart to the point that it has exposed metal, which gets hot in the summer, and I almost burned my hand the last time I drove, and that is where I like to keep my hands while driving. This part is superficial, but his Bluetooth system is trash, and he puts some child block settings on his car, so it can't drive over like 80 miles per hour. The volume doesn't go up past like 13, and his left side brake lights don't work, just to name a few. And to just throw this in here, not a big deal, but it's a key start. I love my push to start instead of fumbling around with keys. You're spoiled. You're very spoiled. Yet, I am a tall person. I'm 5'8". He's taller than me. He's 6'3", but I have back issues and knee issues, and it's harder for me to sit down and stand up from low seats in vehicles, which is a big reason why I personally got an SUV versus a car. But I like to keep my SUV clean. I have a trash can in the car to keep all my trash in one spot. I clean the interior of my car, often especially when it gets dusty and dirty. And I don't like dirt even on the outside because I'm slightly OCD. Bird poop is my bane. Also, my SUV settings stay the same each time you get in and out of the SUV. Finding Bluetooth in his car is a journey. Also, driving the car is more difficult because it sits so low to the ground, and I have better vantage points in my SUV and can see more of the road. I know some people don't have cars, and I've been there, but I did so much work and research until my SUV before buying it, and actually enjoy driving it. He chose his car versus the one he really wanted because the payments were $10 cheaper per month when he bought it. He also discovered a month ago that his car is considered a compact vehicle versus a sedan. So, am I ungrateful that I'd rather not drive my fiance's car and would rather he drop me off in my SUV or even his car or again Uber instead of driving his car in certain situations? I don't think ungrateful is the correct description. I don't think ungrateful is the correct description because, you have driven it. I understand that you worked hard for your SUV, as we all do, work hard to afford the vehicles we want. And he made his choice. He chose a compact vehicle. But a lot of what you listed is superficial. The dirty thing, I get it. I don't want to see a car filled with trash, with stains where people have spilled stuff all over the place. I don't like that either. But if it's not yours and it's what you have to drive for the day, you just deal with it. Are you an asshole for not wanting to drive your car? It really sounds like primarily the only times that you're driving his car is when he has a DJing job. Like he wants the SUV because it fits everything easier. No, I don't think you're wrong for not wanting to drive his car. Like that's your preference. You get to say, actually, I really don't like driving your car. I'm going to keep my SUV. It's yours. You get to say that. Is that necessarily fair? No, but if he already had this DJing job when he chose to get a compact car and knew how much stuff he needed to fit in a vehicle, he knowingly made that choice to get a vehicle that was going to be difficult to fit the things he needed into. If it's not working for him, if it's in such bad repair that it's about to be a Flintstones car, then if he can, he should upgrade and keep in mind that he needs a bigger vehicle to fit all his equipment in. It's a lot of what you list is superficial, yes, but ultimately, your car, your choice, so you get to decide whether or not you give it up and have to drive his. If you're saying that you're willing to give him, like willing to loan him your SUV for the DJ gigs and stuff, and you're just saying that you would rather he drop you off where you need to be or you get an Uber, that's your choice. That is your choice if you want to pay money for an Uber to take you somewhere else versus driving the car that's freely available to you. That's a choice that you get to make. And he can be upset about that, but you have your preferences. You don't have to drive his car if you don't want to. Pretty simple. I can kind of understand where you're coming from. My husband is also a mechanic. He drives older trucks. He chooses to drive older trucks. He prefers them. And that's great. Anytime he switches vehicles, he'll make sure that I know that whatever the quirks are of the vehicle to make sure I can drive it if I have to. He knows I don't want to. He knows I'm not going to unless I am very, very desperate. I have a much newer car than what he likes to drive. I have a 2012 SUV. He drives trucks. I don't mind trucks at all. Love a good truck. But I like newer vehicles. My Bluetooth doesn't work, no. But there's a lot of features in a newer vehicle that I appreciate. Though I do think wing vents need to come back. Yeah, and he chooses not to drive my vehicle. There's lots of times he's been between vehicles, I'm like, I'm here for the day, you can take mine, you can go do what you need to do. I don't like to drive your car. Okay, I offered. That is always a choice that you get to make if you are not comfortable and just have a preference against driving a certain vehicle. I'm sorry, guys, my voice is struggling. Story number 2 is coming to us from r/am I overreacting? AIO for not wanting to go on vacation with my family. Hi everyone, my name is Sophia and I am 21 years old. It's the summertime and my family wants to go on vacation to California, but I do not want to. The reason why I don't want to is that my family wants to visit my grandparents. Now, before I state what happened, I just want everyone to know that I do not hate my grandparents whatsoever. Good disclaimer. So this all began a year ago in June 2025 when my family and I went to California to visit our family, and we ended up staying with my grandparents. I should also point out that I was taking summer classes during that time. On our last day at my grandparents' house, my parents were loading the car with everything so we could go home right after breakfast, and my three younger siblings and I were in the living room. At one point, I received an email from one of my professors telling me to make sure I take an exam by the end of the day, and while I was replying to her, my grandpa walked in and in a very cheerful tone, he said, "Good morning." My younger siblings said good morning to him right back and even went in and hugged him. But me, I quickly looked up and said good morning right back and went. But me, I quickly looked up and said good morning right back and went right back to responding to my professor. And he got annoyed and called me uneducated and went up to me and grabbed my phone out of my hand and threw it on the couch. And then he yanked me up from the couch by my arm and pulled me into a hug and kissed me on the cheek. One thing I also forgot to mention is that I don't really do physical contact specifically with men due to two traumatic experiences that I dealt with when I was 14 and 20. He also knows about the first experience and tells me that it should be water under the bridge. With that, I told my parents that I didn't want him at my college graduation, which was coming up in almost a year, and they would not stop pressing me about the matter. 5 months later, we were making plans to go to California again for Thanksgiving in November 2025. By then, I had cooled down on the fact that my grandpa wasn't invited to my graduation the following semester and decided to forgive him and move on. But then, something new happened. The day before we were set to go back home, my family was having a little celebration for my little sister, and she and I were sitting on a swinging chair together. My grandpa thought this was cute and said he wanted a photo. We told him that was fine, but not to post the photo on Facebook because he loves to post a lot about everything he does in his life. He got really annoyed by that and walked away. Later that day, I went inside to the house to grab something. And he cornered me, telling me that he was saddened that I won't let him post and that he has a right to post whatever he wants. And when I tried explaining why I didn't want to be posted, as he was asking, he interrupted me and wouldn't let me talk because in his eyes, I disrespected him. Then he doubled down on me and told me that I was a disappointment as a granddaughter. That completely broke me, and I walked away because he didn't even want to understand why I told him not to post me, which is because I had been a target of online bullying and harassment for so many years since I was in high school, and I just wanted to remain low profile and not let people who bullied me get any access to me, especially through family members like my grandpa who have their profiles public. The following day, we were getting ready to go home when I got so sick that I was throwing up, and it was so bad that I ended up passing out. As we were leaving and saying our goodbyes to our grandparents, I waved at them, and my grandpa tried to hug me, but when I refused, he got annoyed, saying I was uneducated, and my parents and grandma told him that I was sick and to give me a break already, and he did. It angered me that he treated me like garbage the night before, and then the next day he acted like nothing was wrong. Very common. Because not everyone is allowed to have feelings. After that, I made it clear to my family that I refused to have him here on the day of my graduation and to not even think about inviting him. And they were saddened because I don't normally act like this. I warned them that if he ended up coming for the most important day of my life, they were going to have problems with me moving forward and to stop making me talk to him. Back at the end of January this year, my parents flew out to California for my grandpa's birthday. But before they left, they asked my siblings and me to sign a card for him. And when my mom saw that I didn't sign it and told me to, I gave her an ultimatum. I told her that I'll sign it, but my way, which says, "Dear Grandpa, happy birthday, love the disappointment that I am." Or she can sign it the way she wants on my behalf. In the end, she got my dad involved, and he told me to be the bigger person. So in the end, I signed the card respectfully, but then told them that I would not call him on his birthday, and they just sighed and left. The day of his birthday, I had a panic attack because everyone was pressuring me to be on the call. And in the end, I got on the call, but he didn't acknowledge me, and I didn't care. Later throughout the year, we called him and my grandma for Easter, and I actually said something this time. But instead, he said thank you to my parents and younger siblings and left me out again. And once again, I didn't care. He finally acknowledged my existence on the day of my first graduation because my dad told him and my grandma without talking to me first, and I had to sit in the car and listen to him act fake with me. Now my family is talking about going to California. Still, I've already made it clear that I'm not going because he doesn't respect my boundaries, and my family is begging me. I know that I am a grown woman, almost 22, and that I should stand my ground and not let anyone walk all over me. But at the same time, my grandpa is in his 80s and he probably doesn't have much time left. I really need to know if I'm overreacting for just wanting to set boundaries, or should I just let it go at this point and be the bigger person to keep the peace? I'm open to everyone's advice on what I should do. Okay. Let's see. Am I overreacting for just wanting to set boundaries? No, you're not overreacting. Um, because it sounds like you've been the bigger person for the sake of keeping the peace, whatever that is, for the longest time. I want to go back to where you said you gave your mom an ultimatum about the birthday card. To be clear, that an ultimatum is not a boundary. A boundary is something that you do that doesn't require anyone else's involvement. You setting a boundary is you saying, I'm not going to sign the card for XYZ reasons. Doesn't require anyone else to do anything. You're not giving an option. You're saying, this is my boundary. I'm not signing the card. I don't like ultimatums. They generally don't work the way you intend them to. And I mean, this didn't work. You're like, oh, I gave an ultimatum. But then she got dad involved, so I signed the card. It wasn't, you didn't hold your boundary firm. You can't set a boundary without being willing to hold it firm. Because once you try setting boundaries and you don't hold it firm, everyone learns that they can just push you, as they have, and walk on your boundaries, as they have, and you will give in and keep the peace and do what they want you to do. Because that's what's always happened. This is a learned behavior. They have been conditioned to understand that while you do have feelings and you're going to get upset about things, everyone can just push you and pressure you and you'll give in. Nothing's going to change in your situation until you stand your ground. So don't go to California. Like you have had like you've forgiven and you have tried again, but you keep having these repeated instances of your grandpa. Like he's calling you uneducated. What's uneducated about not wanting a hug? That's a personal preference. I love hugs, but personal preferences. I know a lot of people that are not huggers. Or uneducated because you acknowledged him when he said good morning, you walked in the room. You just didn't get up for a hug and continued what you were already busy doing. And he called you uneducated and then disrespected your property even when he grabbed your phone and threw it. He forced physical contact on you. And then he said that you were a disappointment. That should have been enough right there. You tried and you kept trying and you kept forgiving and he kept pushing you away. So why is your family still trying to push you towards somebody who keeps pushing you away? Stand your ground. It sounds like you still live in the same home. I hope you have a full-time job and you're saving where you can move out soon, because I think having your own space will be important to you being able to set those boundaries and hold them firm. Because, I mean, if you still live in the same home, there's not really that much separation. Versus if you do have your own space, not only can you not reply to their text messages or whatever, but you can also just be in your own space. They can't like come knock on your door. They can't be in your bedroom. They can't corner you in the kitchen when you're getting a snack. I think that separation will be helpful and important for you. So yeah, you are right. Story number 3 is coming to us from r/AITA weddings. AITA to not invite cheating cousin to my wedding. I'm getting married in 2 months to a wonderful man, Nate. It's going to be a smaller wedding, his second wedding, my first. And we had to make some difficult choices on who to invite since he has a large family. This was not a difficult decision. What was not a difficult decision was not to invite his cousin Steve. Nate and Steve grew up together and were very close. Neither of them have brothers, so they essentially became brothers, and they were each other's best man at Nate's first wedding and at Steve's only wedding. That was until Nate found out that Steve had a 5-year-long affair with his wife, now ex-wife. Nate was obviously completely wrecked to be betrayed by the 2 closest people in his life. For years, he had a hard time trusting from this incident. He divorced his wife right away, but he made the decision not to blow up Steve's spot because of his 3 kids and because he thought that Steve would come clean with her on his own. That decision has continued to haunt us a bit. Almost all of Steve's family, besides his wife and children, know what happened. Nate said that his family have all generally supported him, but he has always felt that they were just waiting for him to get over it. And they prioritized keeping his cousin's peace over his own, since no one wanted his wife and kids to know. This all happened years before him and I met, but he continually sees his cousin at family events, and it's very uncomfortable, but Nate does his best. This brings us to the wedding. Nate was very adamant that he doesn't want Steve to be invited. Of course, I support him in this, and I certainly don't want this scumbag at our wedding either. We send an invitation out addressed to the last name family. Then Nate calls up Steve to explicitly tell him the invite is only for his wife and kids, and that he is not welcome and better not come. We knew his wife would be confused on not receiving the invite. There's still more, but I already don't like that. I immediately don't like that. Well, Steve was all confused and said he was hurt. He said he thought things had gotten better between them. Nate said they had not. Things will never be right between them again, and he doesn't want him at the wedding. So Steve goes and complains to his mom, who then complains to her sister, and suddenly the mothers are telling us how sad it is that Nate hasn't forgiven his cousin, and how they're sick of keeping this secret, and how it puts them in a bad position. Why are you keeping a secret? That woman deserves to know. My position is that the mothers have nothing to do with anything, and if they're sick of keeping the secret, then they should go and tell Steve's wife already, or convince Steve to tell her himself, as he should. Nate's mom even had the nerve to tell me that I wouldn't be getting married to Nate if it wasn't for Steve and Nate's ex cheating on him. Like Nate and I should be grateful? So, AITA for not inviting Steve to the wedding. No. Oh my gosh, the absurdity of the last comment. Because that is how that comes off. It sounds like she's like, well, you should be grateful to Steve because if he hadn't been a home wrecker, Nate wouldn't be divorced for you to get married to right now. Oh my heavens. Mom should be ashamed of herself. Mom is Delulu. You guys are absolutely right for not inviting Steve to the wedding. Nate and Steve are not close. Steve did a lot of damage in Nate's life. That absolutely makes sense. At this point, I don't know why Nate never told her. Like, if no one else is willing to tell this woman the truth, she's living a lie. She's living a lie. Her husband cheated on her for 5 consecutive years, and they have 3 kids together. She deserves to know. Someone, please tell this woman. If the moms aren't willing to tell her, if Steve's obviously too much of a scumbag to tell his wife, at this point, Nate should just get it over with. If the wife, hey, this could be a great opening though. If the wife reaches out directly about the fact that they got an invitation, but Steve's not invited, that's your opening. Just tell her, oh, well, we don't feel comfortable having someone at the wedding who broke up Nate's last marriage. That could be the easiest way out. But ultimately, I don't like that you sent an invitation to last name family, Smith family, and then had to call him to specifically say, listen, the wife and kids are invited, but not you. I feel like it is simpler, it is easier, regardless of how close you guys are with the wife and the kids, it is simpler and cleaner if you just don't invite that family. Just don't invite any of them. Because it leads to more questions if you're excluding one part of a married couple than to just not invite the whole group. And also, I think a way that you could have made it clear who is invited without having to make a phone call would have been to send that. I know, like, you probably did all your cards, last name, family, but to send that specific one addressed to the wife's name and kids. That would have been the easiest thing to do. And also, you could have even like if you had an RSVP card, you could have pre-filled it with, it's a mom and 3 kids, 4 guests, 1 adult, 3 kids. You could have pre-filled that. That really gave it away. But no, you're right. Okay, that is 3 stories for this week's episode of Was I in the Wrong? Thank you so much for being here for another episode of the Misty Morrison podcast. Remember, start each day with a grateful heart. Kindness changes everything, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.